Alright, so as you can see, I've got my Rishiamau shirt on, which 100% means it is time to talk about a crossbow game. So like I had said, I believe in the third, I kind of laid my roadmap out for the rest of the series. I'm going to do Zero, Reverie, Sky FC, Cold Steel 3, and ending with SC. So, Trails from Zero, I'm really glad I just kind of sat down and wrote my thoughts out about the game, the good and the bad, because for me, there's definitely both. This is why I'm glad I didn't just make a one video saying this is my ranking of the games in the series, because this would have been the bottom game, not bottom of the fucking barrel, because like I've said, there's three categories three criteria for that. One, you have to be at the bottom of the list. Two, you have to actively be disliked. And three, so freaking bad, I can't imagine the company making anything worse than you. And it would have been at the bottom of the list, but I don't actively dislike it, and I certainly don't think, oh, it's so bad, I can't fathom them doing anything worse. No, absolutely not. But having done my scoring of it, I can say it's not the bottom. Cold Steel 1 overall has the lowest score. But I would say when it comes to just my vibe with a game, it's at least with an RPG. I mean, like for a Mario game, this isn't really going to apply, but the story, or like the narrative, the story and the characters, how much I vibe with them, do the decisions they make sense to me? Do the actual like directions of the plot that makes sense to me? Is it paced well? Does it flow well? Etc., etc. That to me is the most important part of an RPG. I don't necessarily score it higher. Like, of my out of 15, narrative does not have more points allocated to it because presentation is still important, gameplay is still very important. But generally in my overall thoughts or vibe with something, that will, at least, again, with an RPG, that'll carry a little more weight than how good it looks, how good the music is, or how fun the game is. So, bear that in mind. I'm kind of going to be a little mean to Zero when it comes to its narrative. It's not terrible. It's not even bad. To me, it is the weakest in the series. I mean, there's another game that can maybe give it a run for that, but we'll get to that when we get to that. It'll be one of the next games, and it's the next game. But again, we'll talk about Reverie when we get to Reverie. But moving on to Zero, starting, of course, as always, with the presentation. This game, I think I said it in the last video, because for whatever reason I was talking about Zero quite a bit when doing the third. This game has such a good soundtrack. I love it. Getting over the barrier to it's so hype. It's so good at just getting your blood pumping. You're like, man, it doesn't matter if I'm fighting like a military dog that's on the prowl and is going crazy. I could be fighting a giant monster. I could literally be fighting a wasp. Doesn't matter. It feels like the most badass, important fight of your life. It's so good. Inevitable Struggle, the main boss theme, kind of the same thing. I think the Super Range version is way better, but I still think it's a really good track, and it gets the blood pumping. It hypes me up. I want to kick some ass. I don't remember if the Super Range version plays anywhere in Zero. I don't think it does, because I think when you're doing the bank, like defending the IBC, I think it's just a regular version of Inevitable Struggle. I could completely be misremembering that. There's also an alternate version of Getting Over the Barrier that plays during the climax. I believe it's during I think it's like on the way to the Sun Fort as there's like the giant car chase. I think it's called like Getting Over the Barrier Roaring version. I'm like, that sounds so badass, and plays in a really badass part in Azure. Like, holy crap. You've got the title theme, the do 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 do. I love that. That was stuck in my head. I finished Zero like months ago, and then out of nowhere it was stuck in my head for a week. It's so good. It's so catchy. just the music in Crossbell. It's really nice. Then you got the Ark and Seal music, which slaps. You have the Maine's Village music. So good. That is one of my favorite themes in the series. I say that a lot about a lot of songs, by the way. I don't have a list. I don't really intend on doing these are my top songs from the series. These are my top chapters, top characters. I might, if I'm really feeling up to it, and if you guys are like, yeah, we actually care about your opinions, give us more, then sure. I hope you guys care. I hope that's why you're here. Anyways, but I really like that song. The final, I don't remember the final boss music, but the final dungeon music. It's so fucking hype, dude. Like, that's the thing about Crossbell. For better or for worse, I guess it's less for better or for worse. It's more of whether it sticks the landing or not. Crossbell will always deliver hype. It will always make you feel like you are doing the most cool, badass shit. And it never fails to deliver that. And regardless of my thoughts on Crossbell's story at times, and how well they may or may not handle their characters, I'm always having a good time. And I feel like that's very important to say. And then, I guess moving on to the characters and their designs, which I think I talked about in Azure, I really like them. I really like everyone's outfits. Now, it's not like, I mean, like, yeah, Randy has a jacket, but I don't look at it, it's like, man, that's a drip jacket. It's like, no, every time I look at it, I just think of Marty McFly. It's like, dude, it's got a life preserver. Like, it doesn't actually look like a life vest, but it's this thing that kind of barely feels him. It's like this gaudy orange thing. Like, no, this isn't drip. But Randy doesn't care. I think I said in Azure, like, it looks like he just found something that kind of fits and said, screw it, I don't care, I'm going to put it on. And like, yeah, that sounds like Randy to me. I talked about Tio and how she has a lot of trauma in her history. So the fact that she literally wears a piece of armor on, I'm like, that's so weird. But now that I know who you are and, like, your history, it makes perfect sense that you would wear something to, try to keep people away. Yeah, I talk about how Ellie wears just, like, a nice outfit. And it looks like someone who tries to carry herself well. Not necessarily regally, but it's like, yeah, it's like I try to dress well. I always try to look well. Lloyd just kind of has a uniform, but it's a nice-looking uniform. Noelle has a really nice uniform. I love the CGF uniform, and I think Noelle looks great. I think Noelle is cute as hell. She's not one of my, like, big Trails crushes. Think about that. It's like, maybe not, but then when she shows up a couple years later in Reverie, and you're like, oh, dang, Noelle got fine. Maybe it's because I can see the whole model. Like, oh shit. All right, there we go. Anyways, let's do the moist beer. Oh shit, sorry. Did not expect to be this thirsty. Anyways, point. I think the design, I like the designs. I love the music. I love the look of the game. Because it is sprite work. I like the sprite work. It doesn't have that same classic timeless feel that Sky does to me. And I think that's just because Crossbell is a more modern setting. But it's not like, oh man, this looks more modern. It looks bad. I don't like the look. Let me rephrase that. It's not that I don't like it. It doesn't click with me quite as much, but it's still a very good look. It loses no points for that. The only thing I would take points off for in the presentation, it's a really minor thing. I'm not even gonna lie. Like, I could see someone going, dude, that's so minor. It's not even worth taking points off for. And I get it. The portraits for Estelle and Joshua run a little bit too, but not as bad. They look weird to me. It looks like everyone else, like everyone who is unique to Crossbell, their portrait looks perfectly fine. And then for some reason, like, Estelle and Joshua, it's like, did they draw them with like a fucking marker or something? Like, it just looks off. And maybe, because this is completely valid, it's because I had just finished playing all of Sky. FC, SC, the third, went into 0 immediately. So it is very possible that after 90 hours of SC, like 50 hours of FC, and I don't remember how long the third was, like 30, 35, maybe 40, and seeing this is how they look, seeing them drawn differently is just, yeah, it looks a little weird. I mean, that's very possible, but it was just something that bothered me. I was like, I don't know, the way they look off. They look so weird. I don't like it. It bothers me. It bothers me immensely. And it's not like in Kuro where it's like, yeah, only when you bring up like the menu you'll see those wonky looking portraits. No, anytime they're on screen and they talk, this is what you're getting. Like, they just, I don't know what it is. They just look wrong. This bothers me. So I have to take a half point off. Only a half point. It's a 4 out of 5 because holy shit, everything else about the presentation is good. But it just bothers me. It just looks wrong. But now we can move on to the gameplay. This game is fun as fuck. This game is so ludicrously cracked, dude. So again, I talked about how in the last video, to me, Azure's the perfection of the Sepith system because of all the crazy shit it gives you. But the third is the most fun game with a Sepith system because of how strong everyone feels. This game is definitely somewhere in the middle. It doesn't have all the fun toys that Azure does, and also not the like really crazy quartzes that the third gives you because it's a third game in a series. It's gonna make you feel ludicrously powerful. Set our power to ludicrous strength. That is how the third feels. That's how Reverie feels. Holy crap. But, this one I feel like is a good balance. It is Trails from Zero, because that is the theme of the game. You are starting from zero. It was the Drake song. I think it's Drake. That started from the bottom, now we're here. Started from the bottom, now the whole SSS is fucking here. Because, yeah, like, you're not respected by the other members of the police. You're not respected by the media. You're not respected by the bracers. No one cares about you guys. You have to earn your respect. You have to earn your reputation. You're just a bunch of rookies. And only one of you is actually a cop. And I think that makes a lot of sense. And there was a bit of that, like, man, I'm going from the third, where I was ludicrously powerful, to having nothing. That kind of sucks. But that's not something I could ever take points off for in good faith. Because, again, like I just said, it fits the theme. And also, yeah, I mean, it's not really the game's fault. I went from one of the most fun games to the series to having to start over. But even then, you feel that building. Like, you feel yourselves getting better. And there's just a point in the game, I don't even know when it was, where I just was like, these people are super strong. Randy's crafts have so much bullshit going on. I know I really got into the numbers in Azure. It's like, oh yeah, the burn one, I think is like a 80% chance to burn. The blinding craft, 100% chance to blind enemies. It comes in so clutch. Ellie's Holy Bullet. Like, okay, for, 40 CP? Everyone in an area around me will get 20 CP, including herself. So if you know what you're doing, it only costs 20 CP. Gives everyone another 20, and heals a decent chunk. It's a really good supporting craft. I think it's probably one of the best in the series. Yeah, not including S-crafts, of course. That's its own category. But Holy Bullet is so clutch. Granted, the downside is everyone has to be close together so you can get rocked by shit, but honestly, the trade-off wasn't that bad for me a lot of the time. And then when there were times when it was, I was like, alright, let me actually start spacing people around so it's not a problem. Tio doesn't get her, like, super busted craft until the end of the game with Absolute Zero. But even then, like, Summoning Sight is very good. Energy Circle is also a really good supporting craft. And Lloyd has Burning Heart. It's a what, like 5 turns, you get a buff to, like, I think it's strength, speed. I don't remember if it also buffs his defense. At the very least, it's a strength and speed. And I think it's like a 50% buff. It is ridiculous how good this ability is. And I don't even think it costs that much CP to use. And then, you get to Azure, and it was like the devs realized these people are way too strong. We kind of have to nerf them into the ground and make them get back to where they were, which I don't like. I've talked about that to death on these videos. But Zero itself, as you are gaining that reputation and you are gaining all these really busted crafts, it's fun. And you feel like you're becoming a valuable part of the community. And I really like that. I don't remember a lot of the individual quests from Zero, I will be perfectly honest. But I think I liked them. I haven't really talked about individual quests in a lot of the games. I talked about it a little bit in Kuro because those were very memorable to me. At least the ones I brought up. But I did really like that sense of it. And I will say the setting of Crossbell, this is maybe more of a narrative thing, but I'll go and just bring it up here. This is the only game where the setting is really small. Sky, you have all of Laboral, and by the end of SC, you are just walking across the entire map to go do shit, which I actually really liked. Cold Steel is Erebonia. Kuro is Calvard, which are these big-ass countries. You're not exploring them. You're just kind of like, alright, this chapter, we're going here. You take a train, you take a car. Crossbell, it's very compact. It's very claustrophobic. And I feel like that's very intentional, because you're in the middle of Calvard and Erebonia, these two big countries that are constantly looming over you and getting in your business. You do feel kind of trapped. I really don't remember the point I was trying to make, because I had a point in my head of how I wanted to talk about this with gameplay, and now I don't remember what it is. I feel like I just wanted to say, I think I just wanted to feel like it's a very unique experience. Oh, that was it. It was like the community building, because I had said something about that. I do like that element a lot. Because pretty much everywhere else, it's you go somewhere, you do some shit, and then you leave. If you go back, you can maybe see some of the improvement. But Crossbell, I feel like you really do feel like you are a part of the community because there's nowhere else to really go. And I do like that element of the game a lot. What does that even say? Oh, but since I am on gameplay, I do have to talk about some of the bosses. The Yin fight, really fun. The Garcia fight, I really liked too. I love the shit at the bank when you have to defend like wave after wave after wave. Really good shit. The one thing I would have to criticize gameplay for, though, is the final boss. So I remember in Kuro, I was like, the final boss of this game pissed me off. He was way too hard. Like, he had so much dumb bullshit, and then could just snap his fingers and heal a bunch of health back, and I hated it. Zero's final boss is the exact opposite end of the spectrum. He is easy. He is a joke. And I remember there was this dialogue like right before him because Estelle and Joshua are helping out the SSS. They're like, oh man, this guy is tough. This guy is worse than Weissman. Like, we literally fought a dude who fused with a Septarian. This guy is a more evil person. This guy is worse. I'm like, really? You're saying he's worse than Weissman? Really? This is like the toughest, worst thing you've ever faced? You guys fought Louve multiple times. You fought Ren and Pottermodder multiple times in kind of different ways, but this guy is scarier? Really? Nah, you full of shit. That bothered me. Again, that's not a gameplay thing, but that bothered me a lot. Because what, to me, that is, it is trying to build up Crossbell by bringing Sky down. Like, oh yeah, this thing is, like, this new threat is really crazy. It's worse than anything we've ever seen before. If you have to tell me that, then it's not the case. And I always hate that kind of shit. I'm gonna be completely honest. It's like, I think it started in the Buu saga. Because I remember there's this scene, when Goku first goes Super Saiyan 3, which, it's a horrible transformation. I don't even think that's a hot take. If it is, whoops. I don't like Super Saiyan 3. But he goes Super Saiyan 3 for the first time. He's fighting Buu. He's like, I fought creatures from all across the galaxy. And you, by far, are the best. Really? Buu is the best fighter you've ever fought. If he couldn't regenerate, how many times would he be dead by now? Like, really, let's be honest, Goku. He's not a good fighter. He just has a bullshit fix me button. And Majin Buu is why I don't like regeneration. And this is a tangent. This is not relevant at all to Zero. So I'm going to try to cut it down really, really quick. But I've always hated stupid regeneration because of Majin Buu. To me, he made it not fun. Saying that you are the best thing I've ever fought felt to me less of Buu is such a huge threat and more of we have to build him up to feel like he's actually a threat aside from his regeneration. So let's pull Cell down, let's pull Frieza down, let's pull like Vegeta down, all that shit. Bring it back to the game. That is what they did by saying, oh yeah, this dude is way worse than Weissman. He's so much tougher than that. Does not gel with me at all. But giving, actually rating gameplay, it's a 4.5 out of 5. To me, the final boss is just way too easy. And maybe I shouldn't take a half point off of that. I could be convinced otherwise on another day, but it's what I have in my notes, which I wrote a couple days ago, and now, talking about it out loud, I feel like it is because of the writing. I'm gonna be honest, because if it was just, the final boss is really easy, Cold Steel 3's is really easy. It doesn't bother me all that much. I'm like, yeah, I wish this was more of a challenge. But because of how they specifically talk about how, no, man, this guy is the worst thing ever. It hyped him up. And I was like, oh, okay, let's go. This is worse than Weissman, Uwe, Ren, and Pottermodder? Are you kidding me? He's worse than the Reverie robot at the end of FC? The thing was a nightmare. This guy's a joke! Bruh. 4.5 out of 5. That feels so accurate, man. Okay. So now we talk about the narrative. Now I'm not going to be pleasant, but I'm not... Again, it's not like, wow, the characters suck, the story sucks, everything about this game is awful except everything else. I award you no points. May God have mercy on your soul. No. I think the main cast, Lloyd, Ellie, Tio, Randy, this is the weakest main cast of any game. No question. They get a lot better in Azure. Trust me. I'm not trying to say the SSS entirely, throughout all their games, are just bad. And even here, I don't think they're bad. But I look at Cold Steel 1, and I feel like I really got to know these people. And I mean, some of them, Emma, they were saving for another game. Laura, bless her heart, doesn't get a whole lot. But, Eustace, Machias, Elliot, Elisa, didn't really like her, I won't lie. Reen, didn't really like him at that point, I won't lie. But then, what they kind of start to do with Crow, what they're doing with Fee, Sarah, I didn't say Milliam or Gaius, and Milliam was intentional because I didn't really have anything to say. I deadass forgot Gaius. Whoops. But anyways, my point, I felt like by the end of the game, I really liked these people, for the most part, but there was definitely some more room to grow and do stuff with them. By the end of this game, I thought to myself, Lloyd is a likable dude, but he's not interesting. I want him to have a story arc. What is his arc? What is his motivation? Because again, I went into Crossbell thinking Lloyd's story was, I am here to solve the murder of my brother. And it is this recurring thing for him. And then by the end of the game, he solves it, or by the end of the second game, he solves it. It's brought up, but it's not his motivation. It is just kind of like, yeah, I mean, if I can figure it out, I can figure it out, but if I don't, I don't. I think I'd said it in Azure, like, his role is the Uncle Iroh role. I am here to kind of facilitate everyone else's growth, hear their backstories, and be the stabilizing force. Which, as I also said in Azure, that should have been Ellie. Because Ellie is the diplomat. She's the negotiator. She's supposed to be the face of the party. So if she comes in as like, hey, like, I'm Big Sis Ellie, if you have, like, I'm used to dealing with people's problems, I'm used to listening to people's problems, and is the one that really facilitates that shit. And she doesn't necessarily have to be, like, the group therapist, but I could see that working really well. And then you get her talking about her backstory with her parents. I could so easily see it being like, yeah, the reason I'm good at this is because of my parents. Because I had to deal with them fighting. One was, I don't remember which was which. It was like, one's from Calvard, one's from Erebonia. They fell in love, but this city tore them apart. Because this city and all its corruption and all its political influence, it's hard to be of two factions in this place. You cannot be a house divided in Crossbell. And I learned that the hard way. So I couldn't choose to go with either parent, so I lived with my grandfather. Grandfather is a member, what was this? It's Speaker McDowell, eventually Mayor McDowell. What is he at the start? Is he Speaker, or is he something? Cause I feel like he was Speaker in Azure, and then here he's just like Councilman McDowell? I don't exactly remember. Like, but yeah, like, my grandfather is part of the government, and I feel like he's one of the last good people left. So, using all the, listening skills, negotiation skills I developed from seeing my parents fight all the time, I decided to do what I can to help him. And in doing that, I've gotten a lot better with this stuff. So here I am to kind of help you guys however I can. Ellie, I'm told several times throughout the game, is the face of the party. I am shown several times throughout the game that Lloyd is the face of the party. She doesn't really do her role. Like I said it in Azure. Hayue comes to town. Who handles the negotiations? Lloyd. When the black auction happens, who is the person that goes to the auction? Lloyd. You can choose to have Ellie come. You can also choose to ignore her and bring Tio. You choose to ignore both of them and bring Randy. That's completely up to Lloyd. Even though Ellie is the face. After the auction, when you have to talk to Garcia about, like, hey, what the fuck was that shit about? Lloyd handles the negotiations. It's not Ellie. It's never Ellie. I don't understand why they did Ellie the way they did her. Like, the scene when she is talking to Lloyd about, her backstory and her parents, she's like, I don't feel like I'm helping the city doing the dumb shit we do as the SSS. Like, I'm helping, I think I said it in Azure, I'm helping people on a micro level, but I want to help on the macro level, and I don't see how this stuff is going to help me up here. And, like, I'm sorry, it's not because I'm, like, super ambitious and I have to rise to the top. I just don't want to feel useless, and, like, this does not really suit my skill set. But I'm here, and I do see that people are being helped, so I'm not going to stop. But I mean, is this really what I need to be doing? I guess so. I liked that. I was like, this is a really good start. Oh, that's all she gets. Well, there's a second game. Oh, that's all she gets. Sorry, remembering that panel from Act 8, just yikes. That's how I feel about Ellie. Like I said in Azure, I think she is the worst main character of any game. Not because I actively dislike her, but because they just don't do anything with her potential. I didn't care for Elisa in Cold Steel 1. Didn't really care for her in Cold Steel 2. Liked her a lot more in the other games. Ellie just doesn't get better. She's just toast. Can't even say burnt toast. She's buttered toast. The butter is, she's cute. I say that. The game likes talking about her boobs. I love a Cold Steel 4. You know, the SSS see each other for the first time in a while, and Randy's like, man, the dynamic duo just keep getting bigger every time I see them. I remember Clay and I cracked up when we got to that line. But, and then Lloyd, like I said, I don't think he really grows. I don't think he really has an arc. He ends up adopting a kid. It's like, does his relationship with Kia change him? No. Like, I don't feel like he learns, like, does it teach him empathy? No, he already had that. Does it teach him responsibility? No, he already had that. It's not a bad thing to happen, although I don't super get into it, but we'll talk about Kia in a little bit, because we can talk about the other two members of the SSS too, but it's Ellie as the nothing burger. Lloyd is, I like you. I wish you were interesting, buddy. I really, really wish you were interesting. You're just not. And for the main, because Estelle, I think Estelle is my favorite character in the series. No question, 1000%. Reen, boring as hell in Cold Steel 1, but he gets better. I think starting Cold Steel 2, I'm like, you really feel like you're your own person now. And I think he peaks in Cold Steel 3. Cold Steel 4 is kind of the Reen Sworger show. I feel like while Estelle makes all of her party members better, and I feel like I can say that about Lloyd as well, Reen, he definitely makes his students better, but he kind of takes up so much. Like, Estelle is the sun, Reen is the eclipse in Cold Steel 4, who kind of blocks out everyone else. Not his fault, but it happens. And then Van, I think, is also really interesting. Kevin is technically a protagonist for a game. It's really interesting. Lloyd, he's just not to me. Then we get Randy and Tio, who, as I said in Azure, two of my favorite characters in the entire series. Randy, not so much here. He's not bad, and it's like, he is the big brother. He's the dude who's just super chill. He's like, hey, Lloyd, like, you just want to go to a club? You want to, like, go drinking with me or something? Like, he's just, I'm here to vibe. I'm here to have a good time. He's a likable dude. I like him. And I felt like there were kind of hints that there was some interesting shit with him. They just hadn't really capitalized on it yet. Almost kind of like Emma. It's, here's the potential, but we're saving it for later. And by God, do they deliver. Again, I have a lot of problems with Azure's narrative. Randy is not one of them. And then and then with Tio, she's very quiet, very closed off. And then by the end of the game, you get it. 100% you get it. But how do I want to say this? It's almost like while playing the game, I did not really care for Tio. By the end of the game, I realized it worked, so I do like her. And then, again, come Azure, and I'm like, I understand who your character is. You also are like, you're more outgoing. Quite possibly the funniest character in this. Well, okay, Olivier. But Tio is like easily second funniest character in the series, like by Azure. But while playing Zero, I'm like, I'm waiting for you to become good, because I can tell you're interesting. They keep setting it up like there's gonna be some stuff here. It's like there's moments where she's intentionally very quiet, and it's like, okay, what do you know? And I kind of wish you opened your mouth a little sooner, because I feel like the story would have flowed better, but I get it. But it also made a lot of my experience less of, I'm really interested to get to your story, and more of, can we get to it already? And then by the end, I liked it a lot. So I feel like I said in Azure, Randy and Tio were good, but I think it's not until Azure that, for me, it was like, I love these two, while Lloyd and Ellie Lloyd is fine, Ellie is mediocre. I hate to say it, but it's kind of true. But then what about the extended cast? They're fine. They all get better in Azure. Arios, here he's cool. And like, he's a cool dude. He's a cool dad. Azure, he becomes amazing. Noelle, she's fine, I guess. It's like, oh, I guess you joined the party a couple times. Okay, like, she's kind of cute. Azure, I really like her character. Rishya, I like her fine. And I feel like I like Rishia more than some of the other characters in this game because they actually start showing like her duality and shit. And then by Azure, I like her a lot more. Wheezy's kind of one of the only ones that stays the same. Like I think, like I said in Azure, I'm saying that a lot in this video. Take a shot every time. I guess the entire bingo card is mention it in Azure, boom, boom. Hey, I have bingo in like 20 different ways. What do I win? I mean, we definitely got the tangent off earlier. I was talking about Dragon Ball Z. Anyways, point. Wheezy, I think, is fine. And then in the next game, also fine. I like the Chief. I like Dudley. I don't remember ever going, I love these two, but yeah, they're fine. I think the cast is fine. They're not bad. But coming off of Sky and then going into New Class 7 a couple games later, from my experience, because I started with Cold Steel 1 and 2, all of Sky, Crossbell Duo 3 and 4. They feel so weak. And then even looking at how they're done in Azure, like, everyone's so much better here. But you were also, like, because look, like in the other games, yes, everyone gets generally better once you do more shit with them, but I think they're also good at the start. This is fine at the start. Then two of them get really good, and a lot of the side characters get really good. Like in Cold Steel 1, I've said it several times. Rena and Elisa, the two main characters, are my least favorites, but they get better. Lloyd and Ellie, the main two characters, are my least favorites. I don't think they get any better. Lloyd's also... There's this scene when they go to the auction. It's part of the thing with the Black Auction. I know I usually will talk about, like, the story, like, this happens, this happens, this happens. I can't do that with this game because I don't fucking remember what happens. I'm gonna be completely dead-ass honest. I played this before Azure. I could give a pretty good summary. Not that great because Azure was also kind of a blur. And to me, that is the trade-off of this setting, because I can remember in pretty much everywhere else, oh, you go to this place, this happens. You go to this place, this happens. Here, it's all the same fucking place. More or less. I mean, there's a couple outside towns and, like, the hospital, but it's all considered Crossbell. Anyways, but you go to the auction, and you don't have to give your real name. It's like, yeah, you know, this is a very kind of incognito place. Just tell us what you want to be called. And Lloyd's like, I'm going to use the name Guy Bannings. All right, Lloyd, come here. You're a police officer going to an underground auction where they sell a lot of, like, illegal shit. You can pick any name in the world as an undercover officer. And the name that you pick is the name of a dead police officer who is also your older brother, that everyone who's met you has said, you remind us of your brother. I feel like the idea is it's so audacious that, yeah, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to pick the name of a dead police officer because, like, these mafia goons are going to think it's funny. I kind of get that. But also, it's like, okay, one, you're an undercover cop, and the fake name you pick is the name of a cop that might tip some people off. And spoiler alert, it does, because Garcia just kind of looks at him. He's like, are you fucking stupid? Okay. Also, you picked the guy who looks just like you, who everyone knew was a cop, because he was like the best cop in the city. And Garcia knows that, looks at you and goes, are you fucking stupid? I mean, you got tickets, so sure, come on in, but I now know you're a cop. And again, like, if that was part of Lloyd's arc, where, like, he's not very street smart and he gets better, that'd be one thing, but it's not. I don't even think the game ever presents it as, yeah, Lloyd, what you did was really stupid. It's more just like, yeah, good job on that, man. He's like, no, it was dumb. It was so dumb. seems like a really minor thing to get mad about, but I remember in the moment thinking it was dumb as rocks, and I very clearly still do. I'm weirdly heated about that moment, but it bothers me. It bothers me immensely. And then, I do have to say, one side character that I think is phenomenal in this game is Lecter, who is a Sky character, technically. So, I guess that much you will. I blanked for a second. I'm still blanking. I was going to say, that's what I was going to say, because the auction is where you get Kia, who's another side character that I really need to talk about because she's really important. And as I said in Azure, another thing for the bingo, I like her because she's a sweet, endearing, likable child. She is also a plot device. She is the MacGuffin of Crossbell. And everyone meets her. Bingo, I fucking said this in Azure. The second everyone meets her, they're like, you are the most wonderful, beautiful thing we've ever seen in our lives. We are now all Manchurian candidates for you. And I was like, this is weird. Like, something about the writing here, it's off. Like, I get it. She's a nice kid. She's a very likable child. You want to make sure she's okay. You want to make sure that this sweet little cinnamon bun is protected. Get it. Totally get it. Something about the way what you guys are saying is not something you say after knowing someone for 2 days. Because I think it's been a bit of a time skip. But not substantial. It's been a couple days, maybe a week. I'm this, I don't know. This feels off. And then you get to the ending of Azure and it feels like it's supposed to. But it's so is she making them love her? Or did she manipulate causality to make people who would love her near her, but the relationship still has to naturally develop? Because the relationship is not naturally developing. And that's a problem, especially when you get to the end of Azure, where it feels like, it was all real. We love you. You love us. You're part of the family. Yes, but also it feels like bullshit. So, is this a charming scene? Or am I supposed to be disturbed? I don't know. And I don't that's the thing, because I don't feel like it's supposed to be ambiguous. It's just this is wonderful. She's wonderful. It's great. I'm I don't know. I just don't know. I'm just talking about how she's a plot device. The plot, the story, as I remember it, essentially here's a bunch of shit going on. Okay. Bingo, because I said this in Azure. Crossbell's story is at its best when it is about the political corruption. When it is, this is Trail's Gotham City. This place is a shit show. We have mafia. We now have another mafia. We have everyone in this, the council is accepting bribes from the mafia. They're bribing police officers. They accept bribes from each other, from Erebonia, from Calvert. These two countries never get their hands out of our cookie jar, and we are trying to do our best to stay afloat and to be our own thing, and they just won't let us, and it hurts. To me, that and Ren, which I haven't forgotten, we'll talk about that, best parts of Crossbell's story, no question. There's a lot of that going on, and they kind of feel very episodic. Okay, you do this thing, and then you do this thing, and then you kind of do this thing. Investigate some shit going on in the hospital. Oh, look, there's, dogs. And I think it's oh, wait, we think the mafia might have their hands in this. And the next chapter is kind of nothing to do with it, because it was Yin came into town, and there was a note that Yin was gonna kill us or some shit. I don't super remember. And then you meet Noah, the super hacker. Noah, sorry, I don't know why I said that's Yona. My mistake. Sorry, I had to scratch my tailbone. I gotta lean into it, I guess. But anyways, chapter 3 is the auction. But before that, it's the parade, which is or not the parade, it's like a festival or something. It's really fucking long. It's like several days. It did not need to be several days. It's where the Ren stuff happens. You keep that, absolutely. And then she gets you tickets to the auction. It's either Ren or Blue Blanc that gets you tickets. It's either Ren did it. I think it was Blue Blanc specifically. He's like, hey, you helped out my friend. Here you go. And I really liked that. Then that's when you get Kia after all the shit in the auction. You talk to the... I don't care. I'm sorry. As I'm just talking about it, and I'm realizing just how disinterested I sound, I really don't care. Because I don't think it flows that well. It is just, here's a thing, here's a thing, here's a thing. The Mafia is kind of loosely connected to all of it. And by the end, they are not the main antagonists. It's this cult that some people already knew about, like Tio and the Chief and Dudley and Arios, and you're now just at the very end of the game, like the final chapter. Hey, this cult exists, and they did child experimentation, like on Tio, and some other shit happens. Oh, by the way, Dr. Gunter, the guy who works at the hospital, yeah, I know you met him throughout the game, and he really likes fishing and shit. Yeah, he's crazy. He's actually a member of the cult, and he now is trying to kidnap Madame Le Plot device Kia for shit, I guess. Oh, I guess we're doing this. Sure. Okay. Fine, I guess. Why wasn't this ever brought up earlier? Why wasn't when in chapter 2, chapter 1? Because I don't remember how long the prologue is. It's the Ellie chapter, where she gets backstory. It's the Yin chapter, because Ernest, I think was the name of her grandpa's aide, basically sets up some shit, and I don't really remember or care that much. He's hopped up on Gnosis, which is the drug that the cult makes. What should have happened, in my opinion, I think I also said this in Adder, bingo. Yeah, I probably should have done these in order, but anyways. Fuck, what was I saying? So he's hopped up on Gnosis, you catch him, it seems very clear that he's hopped up on something, just like with the way his animations are, like this guy's not normal, he's like on some PCP or some shit. If afterwards, in the next chapter, the cops kind of sat down and were like, yo, wait a second. This is familiar. This drug, what it did to his body, this is Gnosis. And then the chief kind of tells the SSS, like, okay, I'm really not supposed to tell you guys this, but as your chief, you maybe need to know what's going on. Especially because Tio is a member of your party. Explains the cult. And so, I think he talked about this in the third as well. Because I remember talking about this really recently. But anyways, point, he kind of sits you down and is like, this is what's going on. They might still be around. We need to, if this is what I think it is, we need to find who's making it yesterday. And so, while you're doing other shit, this is a major plot thread that is going on. And you are not sure who to trust. The CGF, the Guardian Force, are they really protectors of Crossbow? Or do they have a hand in this somehow? People in the government. I mean, we already know they're all corrupt bastards, but are they this bad? The Mafia, the new Mafia that's just coming in. Are either of them behind this? Now, Ravash, I think that's the name of the first Mafia. It's them and Heiwei. Like, Ravash is like, yeah, like, we don't do drugs. We don't mess with that shit. Doesn't mean they're telling the truth. The street gangs, Wazies and Walds, are they getting in on this? Like, how is this shit going down? Like, is there anything going on at the hospital? We don't know. Who do you choose to trust? And then, by the end of the game, did the characters trust Dr. Gunter? Did the player trust Dr. Gunter at that point? And was that trust betrayed? That's... Yes, I'm gonna scratch my face. I had to scratch my face. That sounds so much better to me than just at the end of the game. Oh yeah, there's an evil cult. Oh yeah, the doctor's part of it. Oh yeah, we probably shouldn't have left Kia with him. Doy, let's go fix her. Fix it, save her. I don't care. I really don't. But as I said, best parts of the story, when they are dealing with the political shit, and Ren. Ren's story really feels like this is the end of it. It's like a trilogy of games. SC, the Third, and Zero. She is an Azure. And at that point, it is like, no, she's now been living with the Brights, although she's not formally introduced as Ren Bright until Cold Steel 4. Not in Cold Steel 1 through 3, although I know she's mentioned very briefly by like Blue Blanc in 2, mentioned very briefly by Tita in 3, and then in 4, it's like, cool, she's here. Reverie, she does get to a little bit of stuff in Reverie, but it's not really a story about her. And again, kind of the same in Kuro. So, chapter 3. Really long chapter. A lot of it's the festival shit and then the auction, which I do love the auction. I know I was like, Lloyd's an idiot. And that's true. Those are not mutually exclusive. I love the fucking auction. It's such a cool idea. It's such a cool freaking set piece, man. Again, Crossbell's good at building up cool set pieces and hyping them up. I'm sorry, I just saw all the spit flying out of my mouth. It's all the passion, damn it. Anyways. And one of the days, or it might be a couple days, you just kind of hang out with Ren. She's like, hi, I'm this little kid in town. Aren't I precious? I'm going to follow you around, Mr. Cop. And Lloyd's like, sure, dog. If this is what we're doing, this is what we're doing. Let's find your parents. And she ends up, she's basically stalking her parents and her new baby brother. He's like 4, which is still like a toddler. But I don't remember exactly how old he is. He's very young. And there's a point where he goes off to play in the woods and he gets attacked by monsters. And so Lloyd steps in, saves him from the monsters. And I think it's more show up and then Ren goes ham on them, kills them. And I remember she just starts crying because she's like, I was not supposed to get involved. I just wanted to observe. I just wanted to see what my family was like, what I could have had. How do they treat you compared to what they did to me? I wasn't supposed to get attached. I wasn't supposed to get involved, but damn it, I did it anyways. Why am I like this? And from what I remember, she has this brief conversation with Lloyd, all right, here's cliff notes of what happened to me. And Lloyd saying, okay, we just saved, I think what happened is okay, we saved their kid. His parents really want to meet the little girl who saved him. Because he was talking about you and how you have the same color hair as them because they all have purple hair naturally. What? Do both the parents have purple hair? I think it was the dad had purple and the mama was a redhead because Colin the son is a redhead. But I was yeah, you got that same hair color. They want to meet you, Ren. Do you want to meet them? She kind of shakes her head. She's like, no, I don't. Okay. They're going to come in and talk to me. I can sneak you out if that's what you prefer. Or you can stay in the room and listen to me talk to them, but we'll just hide. She's like, yeah, I want that. So I think she just hides in the closet. The parents come in, Mr. and Mrs. Hayworth. And then they give the account of what actually happened from their perspective. Which I talked about in the 3rd because I was talking about Ren's story. There was during the war, we were on the run, we were refugees, so we put Rennie, which was her name at the time, we put Rennie somewhere she would be safe. And later we learned that that place gets burned to the ground, and we have no idea what happened to her. As far as we know, our little girl is dead, and we will never see her again. And it's hard having to live with that. Especially knowing that we made it out okay. We did what we thought was best for her at the time, and if we didn't do that, we would have our little girl. But we made the choice we thought was best, and we have to live with that. Yes, we have a son, we have Colin, and Colin is he's our entire world. Colin is not a replacement for Rennie. There is no replacing Rennie. calling is calling. And, we wish we could meet the little girl that saved her. Please give her our regards, because she saved our entire world. And then, I don't remember word for word what happened. From that's what I got from the conversation. And it was the closest Crossbell ever got to making me cry. Even, talking about it, I'm like, oh, I can feel the tear, wanting to come out. Because I think in the last video, I was, talking about Red's story, I was tearing up a little bit. Because I think it's really, really good. And it's really emotional. And, this scene, to me, is... you could argue the end of the game where Gunter's about to kill everybody, because Ren was also experimented by the cult, and so when Ren shows up and saves everyone, just blows him up with Bonner. Also kind of a climax to her story, but to me, this is the emotional climax of Ren's story. It's so good. And it's... Again, it's like I was saying in the third. I just want to see this little girl be happy. She needs that. And how, Ren leaves after that conversation. Estelle and Joshua show up, and they're like, we kind of heard what happened, so we rushed over here because we thought Ren was here, and we just missed her. Alright, well, okay, so we're in Crossbell because we're bracers, and there's a bracer guild, and blah, blah, blah. The actual reason we're here is we're looking for her. We've been through a lot with that girl. She's been through a lot on her own. And we just want to be here for her. To let her know that we're not giving up on her. Because she deserves better. Because me and Joshua, we are here for her and we love her. And maybe she's not ready for that. But we are ready for her when she is. It's great! It's beautiful, because Sky is great. Sky is beautiful. And it does not get lost on me that by far the best part of Crossbell, the part of Crossbell that gets me emotional, that gets me so close to crying, and again, I can feel the wetness in my eyes, I'm there, has nothing to do with Crossbell's story, has nothing to do with anyone in the SSS, with Kia, any of that shit. It is Estelle, Joshua, and Ren. Because of fucking course it is, man. And on the one hand, I'm this is one of my favorite moments of the entire series. I want to give this story such a good rating for it. But also, you take this out, the story is fine. I don't really remember moments that resonated with me that much. And also, the moment that did had nothing to do with this game's main caster's story. It's a holdover from the last one. So no, you don't get credit for this. You just don't. I'm remembering when I watched the ending of Assassination Classroom with a friend of mine. And we got to the penultimate episode. I'm trying to get a lot better about not spoiling specific things. But we get to the second to last episode. There was a scene that made me cry. No dead ass, no cap, no question. I was crying. My friend who had watched the show before and actually recommended it to me just goes, I'm at his house. I'm sitting on the pull-out mattress that I was using while I was there. He's sitting on the couch. So I'm watching, I'm crying, and I just hear, ah! And I look, he's standing up, ah! And then he grabs a pillow and throws it at the wall. It was so funny as shit. And then, after we finished the show, he's like, JJN, I need to explain myself. I was crying. I was super emotional, and I had to do something to keep myself from crying, because I also didn't want to cry in front of you, so I did that. I was like, Billy, you didn't have to explain it. I just name dropped him. Whoops. Hi, Billy. He's like, you don't have to do that, man. The moment you did it, I completely understood why I was crying too, man. He's like, okay. So I'm just loud because I made that exact same noise just a second ago. But that was less of a, I'm crying and I don't want to, although that's kind of what was happening. And also, come on, Crossbell. And so when you're fighting Gunter, and then they're like, oh, this guy is so much worse than Weissman, he's so dangerous. Like, why are you trying to bring Sky down to your level? It's up there. You should be trying to elevate yourself there. Why are you like this? Is it satisfying to kick this dude's ass because of what he did to Tio? Yes, absolutely, positively. My catharsis was because of what he did to Ren. And you're like, what the cult did to Ren. Like, that's what resonated with me more, although the Tio stuff did work. And then after you fight him, it's one of those things, it's like, all right, just beat the shit out of him again with your S-crafts. I made sure Tio got the finishing blow because she deserved it. And then afterwards, Lloyd's like, man, I wish we didn't have to kill him. Like, you know, like, I mean, I'm a cop. We should have brought him in. We should have had him see justice. Like, Lloyd, come here. Shut the fuck up, man. I get it. You know, it's not the Jedi way. It's not what you're supposed to do. You're not following the law and whatnot. The two people in this room that can talk about justice in this situation are Ren and Tio. Because they were his victims. I guess Kia. But, like, those were his victims. They both nuked his ass and made sure nothing of him was left. We got our justice. Stop talking, buddy. Just stop. Just stop. Oh, sorry, so I was looking at my notes, see if there's anything I missed. The only other thing I guess I do kind of have to say about Gunter is I just don't like him as a villain. There's the fact that he comes out of nowhere. His fight is really easy. He's just not interesting to me. He's not very interesting. He's not very fun. I'm not like, you're so hateable the way Weissman is or like Melchior is. He is. Like, I hate him for what he did to Ren and Tio, but I just felt disinterested with him. And I think it is because he comes out of nowhere. There's no build up to it. And it doesn't feel like it was this great betrayal. It's just, I think it'd be like if you fought Weissman at the end of FC. Because, you know, he's Professor Alba, he's this nice dude, blah, 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 blah. And then, oh shit, he's a bad guy. It's the same thing, but then they made an entire second game dedicated to making you hate Weissman. And it works. Gunter doesn't have that. So it just feels, it's cathartic enough, but I don't really care about this dude. It just doesn't work. To me, Zero's narrative, characters are underwhelming. They get a lot better later. But in this game, I think they're underwhelming. I think the story does not flow. And its best moments are finishing stories from another series. Now, do I hate the characters? No, I do find them likable. And I think they have that room to grow. Did I completely hate the events in the story? No. I think the ending is really hype. I think the Ren shit is phenomenal. I love all the political shit going on. Like, there's really good stuff here. I wrote down a 2.5 out of 5 for the story. After venting, I might have to go lower. If I'm being honest with myself. And I have to be. That's the thing. It's not just like, you know, like I want to give it a good score because it's a Trails game and I love it. It's like, I still like the game. The presentation is great. The gameplay is great. The stuff I like in the story is good. And then the Ren thing is great. I can't give it a 1. That's way too low. No, I think a 2.5 is fair. I really do. The lowest I could go was a 2, and even then, that doesn't feel right. So I think I'm gonna have to stick with a 2.5, which that's, see, 4.5 and 4.5 is 9. So this is an 11.5, which I believe is still higher than Cold Steel 1. Although my vibe with Cold Steel 1 is more positive, and again, that is kind of the thing, too. It's Cold Steel 1, I think, as a whole, Zero is a better game. Its presentation is better. Its gameplay is better. its narrative to me is a lot weaker. And with Cold Steel 1, I had that feeling of, I'm glad I played this. I'm gonna play the other games. Not immediately. I've got other stuff I want to do. And I'm looking forward to it. My vibe at the end of Zero was, Azure's better, right? Because I keep hearing that Azure's like the best game in the series. It's better, right? And I'm so excited to finally get to play it. Do I want to take a break? I didn't, because I was way too excited to play Azure. But I was like, do I want to take a break? Because I just played 5 of these in a row. Cold Steel 2, 3 Sky games, and this. And this was underwhelming. Not bad, I still liked it, but underwhelming. Do I need to take a break? And then I played Azure, and it was very, very mixed. And then I played Cold Steel 3, and I was like, oh, thank God. Oh, we're back. Oh, I know I said I need to talk about Reverie next, but maybe I do need to talk about Cold Steel 3. No, I think I'm gonna do Reverie. I'm gonna completely finish Crossbell. Because having played Reverie, I went in kind of hearing that, like, okay, it's Cold Steel 5, but it's also Crossbell 3, and it's also its own thing. Having played it, it's Crossbell 3 and Cold Steel for the third. Because it's like Trails the Third, where it's an epilogue to Cold Steel, but it's the proper third Crossbell game. It's weird because it's fucking Crossbell. Of course it's gonna be weird, and of course its narrative is gonna be an absolute mess. But it's gonna be really fun, so it's still a really good game overall. Sorry, I had this really long pause just staring there because I was just kind of fuming, I guess. Go play it. I still like it. It's not a ringing endorsement. I know. It's the one that just came out, so it almost makes me want to be super positive, so people go buy it. But I have to be honest with my opinion of this particular game. It is on the lower end of the spectrum. For me personally, I know a lot of people disagree. And if you love this game, you love this game. That's great. That's how I am with basically all the others in the series. I don't know. I haven't eaten anything yet today. I'm probably going to go get food. So, bye.